Slavery is back.
Welcome to a place where private business profit from a captive labour force, yet pennies are spent on medical services to a population in which the Indigenous, the poor and the mentally ill are overrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doin Time show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. And this is another show which is being conducted remotely during the Stage 3 restrictions of the coronavirus pandemic. And I want to give a shout out to everybody in lockdown and also to prisoners and asylum seekers in lockdown and anybody who's homeless as well. And also a shout out to our Aboriginal brothers and sisters as well, who do die younger and who have other health issues. I wanted to give a shout out to them as well. It's approximately 4:02 and I'm going to be doing a very special broadcast today to honour Uncle Ray Jckson, whose anniversary of his death falls on the 23rd of April. And Ray Jckson actually died on the 23rd of April 2015, and we are here to honour him today and to honour his great participation in the struggle. He's a Wiradjuri and working class warrior for justice, and we are here to honour his legacy in regards to building the movement to stop Aboriginal deaths in custody. He was a warrior, great-grandfather and recipient of the French Human Rights Award in 2013. They didn't even bother to give him an award in Australia, but anyway. So, yeah, we're going to be speaking to, later on in the show, to Joseph Pugpese, who is a friend of Ray Jckson, has done a lot of work in regards to deaths in custody. And also we'll be speaking with Carolyn Jackson, daughter of Ray, and she'll be paying tribute to her father as well. And last but not, well, actually not last, but first up on the show, we're going to be speaking with Apryl, who is one of the family members. She's a daughter of Aunty Tanya Day, who I wanted to put her on to the show as well to honour her. She actually died in the police cells of a horrific brain hemorrhage, and as a result of police corruption. And we're going to be speaking about the findings of the inquest with Apryl and speaking to her about that and honouring Aunty Tanya. And so we'll speak to her shortly. But before we do that, I just wanted to quickly introduce to listeners, in case they have never heard of Aunty Tanya, just what's happened. So the coroner, because the actual findings were handed down on the 9th of April and they had to be live streamed because of the coronavirus. And the coroner, Caitlin English, has asked the public prosecutor to consider possible criminal negligence in death of Tanya Day. And there were, all the family and friends were there. We'll speak to Apryl in more detail about this, but the coroner has asked the public prosecutor to consider possible criminal negligence in death of Tanya Day. And she's recommended, there's quite a few recommendations, and she made the recommendation after considering the evidence surrounding the 55-year-old Yorta Yorta woman's death. She recommended that she says, I believe an indictable offence may have been committed in connection to Miss Day's death. and she recommended that the Coroner's Act be amended to give coroners more control over the investigation conducted by police that informs an inquest. So there's been quite a lot of literature about this. She also recommended that falls risk assessment be placed in the Victoria Police Manual Guidelines for holding people in custody, that police training be updated with reference to the Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody, and that both the Victoria Police and vline training manuals be subject to an independent human rights review. So the reason why I've invited Apryl onto the show is that she can talk about this as a family member. And the Doin Time show actually attended quite a lot of the inquest, so I'm looking forward to talking to Apryl shortly. And I'm hoping that'll be lined up soon. I think we're going to be hopefully going straight into her, or perhaps going to announcement. We'll see.
Goongerah Environment Centre is a grassroots community organisation campaigning for East Gippsland's precious forests. For over 15 years, we've been using direct action, citizen science and community engagement to stop the continued logging of precious native forests and threatened species habitat. After this summer's terrible bushfires, there's an even greater urgency to protect what remains, and the Victorian government haven't ruled out plans to log the small fragments of unburnt forests and so-called salvage log in burnt areas. It's now so important that forests and wildlife are protected so they can recover. Head to gecko.org.au to keep updated with the latest news and to get involved. Gecko acknowledges the logging is happening on the stolen lands of the Gunnakurnai and Bidwell and Monaro people, and that sovereignty was never ceded.
A 3CR supporter.
Hello, Apryl. Welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. I just actually gave a little bit of an introduction. Did you manage to hear that, or were you just put through now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I didn't want to talk too much. But Apryl, yeah, I'm wondering if you could just start off by just telling listeners what land you're from.
My name is Apryl. I'm the daughter of Tanya Day. Our mob is Yorta Yorta, Wemba Wemba and Brap Brappa. And our family is mainly around Echuca area, so that's where we're from.
Thank you so much. And the reason why we invited you is just to honour, so that we can honour your mum. And she's actually on the same show as Uncle Ray Jckson, who has also passed away today, and he was also very committed to building the movement to stop Aboriginal deaths in custody. So I believe that Aunty Tanya died in hospital on the 22nd of December 2017. Can you just tell us just a little bit about the inquest findings and how you feel about it, and whether, talk about systemic racism perhaps?
Yeah, well, I guess from our point of view, from the moment that Mum was picked up on the train to the moment that she had passed away in the hospital, it was always racially motivated by the people that came in contact with her. So the coroner had found that Sean Irvine, the vline conductor who actually woke Mum up and deemed her unruly, which made the train conductor call the police, that he had acted in a racially motivated way. And she, I can't remember the exact words, but it was around the unconscious bias.
Yes. So
that was a huge win for us and for all our mobs, that she was able to actually acknowledge that. And Mum's case was actually the first case in the nation that accepted systemic racism within the scope of an Aboriginal death in custody. So that was definitely a huge win, and hopefully, it also paves the way for other families that are fighting the same struggle that we are, and makes it, easier for them, for the coroner to accept that.
Would you say that's a historic decision?
Well, I guess it is, because it hasn't been done before. I guess it's hard for me to say that because it's within our family and something that we have done. So it's harder to see the achievements that we've made because we're talking about ourselves. But people have said that, it's historical and it's a landmark decision. So mainly we wanted to do it obviously because we want justice for Mum, but also we don't want any other Aboriginal person to go through what we have.
Absolutely, and this is going to sound awful, but it's not going to bring her back, is it?
No, it's definitely not, and that's the thing. We can have all these recommendations made, but they are just recommendations. It's now up to those different organisations to implement those recommendations. And one of the things that we have said is, our mother deserved dignity and respect, which Victoria Police didn't provide her at the time that she was most vulnerable. And we know that they are responsible for her death. We know that their decision-making was racially motivated as well, and they need to be held accountable. So we are happy that the coroner has referred them to the DPP, but again, that's just a referral. It's now up to the DPP to take action on that.
Absolutely. And would you agree that, when your mum was in the cells, she was not checked on a regular basis? And
No, she wasn't checked at all.
No?
Yeah, so they had actually made a decision amongst themselves to extend the checks out, which they're not allowed to do. It's in their policies and procedures. They're not allowed to do that. They're meant to check on Mum every 20 minutes. So then they had made a decision to, check her. Every second check was going to be in the cell, and even then they didn't. They failed to do that. They didn't even go into the cell to check Mum until they had called the ambulance.
As a radio broadcaster and as a human rights activist, that's really what makes my blood boil, to be honest.
Yeah, and you can see the footage after Mum had hit her head. She had lost the right side of her body pretty quickly. And, I'm not a doctor. Our family's not a doctor. Our supporters aren't. And you can clearly see that she is losing control of her body and that something's seriously wrong. And then she's rolled onto the concrete floor where she looks like she's not even there anymore, and she's got a blanket over her head. And even then they still didn't go in there, and they left her laying on that floor for hours.
And going around saying that, all drunks act this way.
Exactly, and that's just that natural behaviour for police, is the racial bias side of it, and also just how they stereotype our people on a daily basis.
The crime of public drunkenness needs to be abolished in Victoria. But it's a bit too late for your mum, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. If it's a huge failure from the Victorian government. Like, they have, made a promise to abolish the law. It's still not abolished. It's in the works of how to replace that with a public health alternative. That, in the Royal Commission, and out of one of them was Mum's Uncle Harrison Day. Recommendation was to abolish public drunkenness back then. It was nearly 30 years ago. They didn't do it. If they had done it, Mum could still be here today.
There's been so many inquests over the years, Apryl, and in all of these inquests there seems to be an ongoing pattern. And in each of these inquests, and I've heard it all before, and I don't mean to sound cynical, Apryl, but, they say that the manual guidelines for holding people in custody, that police training be updated with reference to the Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody. And, it's good that, that they're recommending that. The coroner recommends that. But how much longer can this go on?
Yeah, exactly. And that's, what I said earlier, like, they're just recommendations. It's up to the individual institutes to implement them. And, you have a look at how Victoria Police is. They stood up on that stand, and each time they were asked, is there anything that you would do differently knowing that Tanya Day will die? And they said no. So it's this way that they think that they're not in the wrong. It's always about protecting themselves. It's about protecting their colleagues. And even though someone has died, they still won't admit their wrongdoing. So then when they're handed down these recommendations, it's like they don't take nothing seriously, because they're not even taking a death of a grandmother seriously when they're the ones responsible for it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that let me know if this is correct or not. From my understanding, when those findings were handed down, wasn't it that the coroner referred the police to prosecution?
Yeah, it's really difficult to get the coroner to refer them to the DPP.
Yes. Yep.
But there's never actually been a police officer that's been held criminally responsible. Not ever. And we have over 435 Aboriginal deaths in custody since the Royal Commission, and out of those 435 innocent people, not one police officer has been held accountable. That's really shocking if you think that's a national disgrace that we have mob dying in their custody, and there's just been no accountability for it.
No accountability, and it's about police investigating police. And what I found quite interesting in the inquest is that Caitlin English often refers to the Victorian Human Rights Charter. She refers to the Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody. And a lot of the time, it appears that the police and vline simply didn't follow that protocol or recommendation in the Royal Commission to use prison as a last resort.
Yeah, it started from vline. It started from Sean Irvine making that decision to wake Mum up and have her arrested. If he hadn't acted in such a racist way, Mum will still be here today. But then she's in police custody, and they could have made their own decision to drive her home or to take her to a medical facility. They dropped Mum off at the police station, and immediately after, they went and picked up a white woman who was making a scene at the Cumberland Hotel. She was asking people for money and for food, and instead of them issuing her a fine for public drunkenness or arresting her, they actually drove her home. Oh. And the excuse was, we knew where she lived. She was able to give us some of the address in Castlemaine. It's like, okay, that's one excuse. But the officers on the stand had also said that there have been times that they have driven people home to Pyramid Hill, non-Aboriginal people. So it's okay for you to drive the same distance as what that is to Echuca. But for Mum, the quickest option that they could think of was police cell, leave her there and to not monitor her.
Yeah, so there was a lack of monitoring, there was a lack of duty of care, and, it really does it should be a public health issue. Also, I'm just having a look at the statement that you and your family wrote, and it's a very powerful statement. Can you talk about that?
Yep. Is it the statement after the submissions had been?
Yes, that's right.
Yep. Well, throughout the statement, we have addressed how there's hundreds of people that are dying in police custody and that no police officer has been held accountable. And it's just to really make that clear to the rest of Australia and to the public that this isn't okay. And as much as we welcome the coroner's recommendations, that's what they are, they're recommendations. And for us as a family and community, we still need to keep the pressure on them to make sure that those police officers are held criminally responsible for Mum's death. Sean Irvine, I hope he can't sleep at night because he is one of the people responsible for someone dying in a police cell.
Indeed, and in fact, one of the things, just in case listeners have tuned in and they don't know about what happened with Tanya, with Aunty Tanya, can you just quickly summarise, in terms of the events? So she was on the train. She fell asleep on the train, and as you said, vline arrested her, and she ended up in the cell, didn't she, in custody, and she was left there basically to die.
Yes, exactly. The last moment that she was conscious was in that police cell. So,
That's right.
they put her in there. They didn't monitor her effectively at all. They failed their duty of care. They didn't follow their policies and procedures. And because of that, like our mother left there unconscious and then died, 3 days before Christmas.
And had she not been arrested, she'd still be alive today.
Exactly. If that law had been abolished, she would have still been here. But, Sean Irvine didn't wake a sleeping black woman on a train to deem her unruly. She would still be here. And if Victoria Police had actually taken her home or to a doctor's or to a hospital, she would still be here.
Well, Apryl, let's make her death not be in vain.
Yes, exactly. That's what we're trying to do.
We have to keep fighting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing, We've finished the inquest, we've had the findings, but now, that's just one part of the fight, and here's on to the next, and that's, advocating and campaigning against these police officers.
Absolutely.
And having them held accountable.
We have to stop the genocide. Apryl, thank you so much for coming onto the program. We're going to be speaking pretty soon with the daughter of Uncle Ray, who died. Do you know Uncle Ray? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing man, isn't he? So we'll be speaking to her shortly. Do you have any final comments that you wanted to make before we move on?
Mainly just to thank all of our supporters. We've had a lot of wins in Mum's case, but that's also been because of the support that we've got and the power of, community and mob being able to share Mum's story and support us and advocate for her. So we just want to thank everybody for their support. Because of them, that's where and how we're able to get to where we are today for Mum.
Apryl, that's lovely, and I'm hoping we can have you on at some other stage to talk more about it, and I'm sure the findings will be published pretty soon and people can have a read.
Yep. No worries. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Thanks a lot.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Whether it's with new content made DIY at home or with repeats of awesome shows, 3CR is with you, keeping you company through thick and thin. So don't touch that dial. 3CR, here to stay.
G'day you mob, Kutcher Edwards here. I just want to send out a message to you all. To stop the spread of COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus, it is advised that you keep 1.5 metres away from each other. Follow rules on social gatherings. Wash your hands when appropriate and stay home if you're feeling sick or unwell. But most of all, keep strong, stay safe, and of course, keep listening to 3CR, community radio, to keep connected to the community. We'll get through this and hope to see you real soon. Bye.
And you're back with the Doin Time show, and we were just speaking before with Apryl, who was the daughter of Aunty Tanya Day, who died quite tragically in the police cells at Castlemaine, and was just speaking to her about the findings of the inquest. This show, though, is dedicated to Aunty Tanya, but also dedicated to Uncle Ray Jckson, and we're doing this show to pay tribute to his life and legacy. And on the line now we have Carolyn Jackson, his daughter. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, Marissa. How are you?
Great to have you.
That's good.
It's that time again, isn't it, Carolyn?
Yes, it is.
memorial, and we're doing a memorial show for your dad. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
So, maybe if you can just spend maybe a couple of minutes just talking about your dad and talking a little bit about his life's work and how you feel about it.
Well, it'll be 5 years to the day on Thursday, the 23rd, that Dad passed. And to this day, his work is still progressing, and a lot of people are out there now that are acknowledging his work, and others are still carrying on his work, so which is a good thing. So his legacy is not fading; it's stronger than ever. Within the 5 years that he has passed, he has been honoured, as you know, the Doctor of Letters, one of his achievements. Also, too, they've formed Professor Joseph. I cannot pronounce his surname properly. Marissa. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, I can never, ever, ever pronounce it right. And I don't want to do it no justice by pronouncing it wrong. But he actually finished off a website that and he and other people from the university tried and finished, which was called a website called Deathscapes. So it's a website that's going to be used in universities to teach those who are studying to be lawyers, and also within criminal law. So they can see the other side of justice. So where there's supposed to be justice, but families haven't received justice. They only look at the negative part of it, but they don't see the other side of it where people and families are being unjust. So that's really, that's a major achievement. So, universities are aware, and therefore they are forwarding this onto students, and also, who are studying criminal law, which is fantastic. So there's people out there that are still carrying on Dad's work, and it's progressing, which is good. So
I'm glad.
And also too, and people like you, Marissa, and your radio station, and everyone else that keeps his memory alive and still going, and his work, which is really good as well. So 5 years to this day, and he's still in people's memories and in their hearts. So.
Absolutely. Look, I met your dad actually in 2013 when I was in Sydney supporting the TJ Hickey's family. Remember when the sister of... not the sister. The one of the relatives of TJ Hickey was sexually harassed by the police at her 21st birthday party.
Wow!
And all the family members were being harassed and taken to court by the police. And your dad was a big part of that. And I actually went to Sydney to record some interviews outside court. And I just remember your dad and I just sat together and talked for hours. And I did so much recording, and then he gave permission for me to air it. And I've still got those recordings.
Oh, yeah. They did a lot of... he aired on a lot of radio stations.
He did.
I think, and also did interviews with SBS and NITV, and they did a lot of coverage with Dad's work, in past and present. So,
but your family must you and your family must miss him. He's a grandfather. Is it his grandchildren?
Well, yeah. Is a great-grandfather, is a grandfather, great-grandfather, and we just found out the other day that my niece, which is Dad's granddaughter, is having a boy. So it's the first one in the family of the grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
So he would have been chuffed to hear about that. But yeah, exactly. We all miss him. He's, we always used to be able to pick up the phone and call him, and we don't. It's hard because you still feel like picking up the phone to call him. So, but even though he's not around, but it's around just his spirit. We feel he still is. And it's not a day that doesn't go by we don't think about him or don't talk about him.
Yeah.
So, and, yeah. But it's good because I just get on, we just get on the net and we just, we want to hear Dad's voice or see him, we just go on the website and, you can see him speaking.
Right.
And that. So it's like, yeah, so it's really, really good. But, we
good.
do miss him dearly. Yeah, we do miss him dearly. And, and we always think about now, we talk about, if he was here now, to this day, what would he be thinking and what would he be doing and would he be with this virus, as you know, Dad was he would have been 70, he just had his birthday, we just had his birthday on the 27th of March and he would have been 79. So we were thinking, what would have happened if he was told, over 70 people, over 70 to stay home, because there's a government say he would not. He would not stay home.
I don't think so.
No, he would not.
Carolyn, can you see him locked down? I don't think he would do it.
No, well, as you know, he passed away from pneumonia, and he worked and worked and worked, till the night before he passed away. So it wouldn't have stopped him. He'll be still out there helping families, finding justice. So yeah, it wouldn't make any difference with that man. But that's what we admire about him. That's what we love about him so much, and we miss about him. So
he wouldn't have, because he chaired the last ISJA meeting and then passed away after that.
Correct. Yeah. Well, he He sent off his last emails. It would have been about 11 o'clock at night, and the next morning he was, he was gone. But peacefully, we're hoping. Well, we're pretty sure he did. He was in his sleep. But he still, till 11 o'clock at night, done his last emails to Easter, and that was it. He sent off his newsletters like he usually does, emails off his, newsletters, and that's it. And that was the end of him. But, like I said, he was around today. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. I'm pretty sure we'll meet again one day. So,
absolutely.
But apart from that, we definitely do miss him dearly.
For sure.
And,
Okay, Carolyn, thank you so much for coming onto the program. Is there any final comments you want to make about your dad before we go?
Just to say that, I just want to thank your supporters out there and also to Easter Sydney, Easter Melbourne, also Maine. Thank you to you, also Marissa, and your radio station. And to say thank you for your support and also to keeping his memory going and his, his work. So, and if anyone wants to, look at anything or wants to read up on his future work, his work that he has accomplished, please get on to the site, especially on the website, Deathscapes. There's a lot of information on there too. So, and that also talks about families that were unjust and to this day trying to find some kind of, justice for those families. So there's other people that are working in the back of the scenes that are still, following Dad's work. So hopefully this will still keep on going and going and going and people keep the fight.
Absolutely. Yeah. So get onto www.deathscapes.org and there's lots and lots of case studies in relation to not just deaths in custody, but also femicide, Indigenous femicide as well.
Exactly.
All right.
No, thank you, Marissa.
Thank you so much. And until next year, I'm sure you and I will talk before next year. But
definitely. Yes, definitely. We definitely will talk soon.
And we will continue the legacy. We all have to continue the fight.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you. Take care of yourself.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
3CR believes that reporting of the ongoing issues surrounding COVID-19 is in the public interest and that our listeners tune in to hear in-depth analysis from a progressive perspective.
We also know that the saturation of reporting in the mass media can lead to an increase in fear, anxiety and mental distress.
If you are feeling distressed, we encourage you to take some time out from all media coverage. And most importantly, reach out if you are needing help.
Call Lifeline on 131 114. Get LGBTIQ+ counselling between 3 p.m. and midnight by calling Switchboard on 1800 184 527.
Call Beyond Blue on 1300 224 636 or Kids Helpline on 1800 551 800.
3CR, radio for the community since 1976.
Stand tall when your back's against the wall. Gotta look deep within yourself. Gotta rise above it all. When no one's there to comfort you, gotta push your fears aside. Rely on your inner strength. Find a sense of pride.
Viruses like flu and coronavirus spread when tiny droplets from coughs and sneezes land on surfaces that others touch. You can help reduce this risk by coughing or sneezing into your elbow or upper arm. Or use a tissue and put the tissue in the bin straight after. Then wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Together, we can help stop the spread and stay healthy. Visit health.gov.au to learn more. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
A 3CR supporter.
And you're back with the Doin Time show. It's approximately 4:36. We were just running a little bit late there. We previously just spoke with Carolyn Jackson in regards to honouring Uncle Ray Jckson, and Ray remained a tireless fighter for Australian and other First Nations peoples and an uncompromising internationalist, holding up a mirror to settler colonialist violence in all its national and global ramifications. Hello, Joseph. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Marissa. Good to talk with you again.
You too. Could you just briefly introduce yourself and just talk about how you met Ray?
Sure. I first met Ray in 2000 when I began to attend the ISJA fora and meetings, and was immediately impressed, really, and in awe of Ray's incredible dedication, focused work on social justice across the broad spectrum of issues. And from that point on, I invited him repeatedly to the university as keynote to contribute to classes and seminars on anti-racism, anti-colonialism, all those sorts of issues. And then we worked on the Aboriginal passport ceremonies that he staged together. And he also came on board the Deathscapes project, but unfortunately he died before he could see it to completion. So his legacy is really ongoing, and we just feel so proud to have worked with him, Deathscapes, and we miss him terribly.
Indeed we do, and in fact, when the symposium launch took place last February, I believe, didn't we have in Sydney, didn't we have his hat at the front and all the posters?
We did. We had his hard hat with all the medals, the badges. We had the French Human Rights Prize medal that he was awarded. So we had memorabilia that was really evocative of the extraordinary work that Uncle Ray did. And of course, Carolyn Jackson and her sisters were there to mark the legacy of Uncle Ray at that launch at the settlement in Redfern.
I think what I really liked about Uncle Ray was that he included everybody, and he'd say black, white or brindle, it doesn't matter.
That's what was extraordinary about him, and I think that's why I was so drawn to Uncle Ray, and that was he wasn't a one-issue man. He had such a grasp of the way in which all people who are oppressed, who experience structural racism, who experience institutionalised disenfranchisement, regardless of their gender, their ability, disability, age, any of those categories, he was up to include and to fight for them and to get justice for them. And I'm not just saying that in a rhetorical way. He actually took on board the full spectrum of issues. So, for example, One of the last cases he was working to get justice for was Veronica Baxter, the transgender Indigenous woman who died in police custody. He was fighting for the Palestinian issue in terms of the settler colonial operations of the Zionist state in Israel, and he sent Aboriginal passport ceremonies to the camps there, the refugee camps, the Palestinian refugee camps. Of course, he did extraordinary landmark work in Indigenous deaths in custody. He worked with the police to try to educate them about racist practices and institutionalised racism. I mean, it's a catalogue of achievements, really, in terms of working across the spectrum.
Absolutely, and in fact, a lot of the interviews that Uncle Ray did on our show, and it really coincides with what you're talking about, Joseph, is in regards to the way that he helped the bereaved families of people that had died in custody. For example, Mr. Clark, Mr. Briscoe, TJ Hickey.
Yes.
The list goes on.
Absolutely. And the way in which he helped, it was a material help, again, across so many different practices and ways, precisely because there was the material activist help and legal help that he would organise for the families who had experienced the trauma of a death in custody. He would arrange fundraising drives to enable them to come, say, to Sydney, because a lot of them were from rural or remote communities, to pay for the extraordinary expenses. Because, as you know, there are no funds in the Coronial system to help people, coming from those remote communities or rural communities. And so he would take care of that. So he'd secure legal representation, but he also made incredible incursions in the actual structure of the way in which an Aboriginal death was handled, and he installed Indigenous protocols so that the family would be reassured that the body of their loved one was treated with the utmost respect. And he actually achieved a significant breakthrough because previously the Coronial system would not allow a family to come and, say, view an autopsy or, be involved in the process in any way. And when Uncle Ray made an attempt to change that, people said to him, "You've got to be joking, there's no way you're going to be able to change that." But through his petitions and his cogent arguments, he managed to change the system so that a family representative could be present to make sure that the body of their loved one was treated with dignity and respect. So he made real structural changes in those ways.
He really did. And the thing that I found really fascinating is that the way he spoke sometimes was like a medical examiner. I do an interview, for example, like even using Mr. Clark as an example, or even Mr. Briscoe, and he'd say, "Oh, well, you know what, I'm going to talk about the autopsy, the findings of the autopsy." And he'd rattle off the findings like he was actually there. It was just incredible.
He had an encyclopedic mind, and so he had that clear analytical mind, and he could sort of slice through all the legalese, and that's why he was so powerful in making those interventions for structural change within those racist institutions. But he also had an incredible fortitude and stamina. So often, for example, the family, of course, could not bear to see their loved one in an autopsy coronial setting, and he would stand in their place and then report back to them. So there was an extraordinary inner strength and generosity of spirit there.
Absolutely. And I remember he actually wrote a couple of open letters to politicians, didn't he?
He did, to the prime ministers. And, talking about refugees and asylum seeker issues, he would pen, his last letter was to the then Prime Minister Abbott, prior to that to Rudd, and he would repeatedly say in those letters, and I've got copies of those letters, he would say, "You are not speaking in my name in holding these people, refugees and asylum seekers, in offshore detention or onshore detention, and really in violating their basic human rights to claim asylum." And he would say, as an Indigenous elder, I'm extending them welcome and hospitality to my country, which was, Wiradjuri country. So he was fearless in penning those letters, and they were impassioned but really clear, and as you said, forensic in their articulating of the arguments of what was at stake, even though he was incredibly compassionate for the people he was speaking on behalf of.
Very much so, and in fact the passport ceremonies really reference a history in which papers and certificates and the lack of these documents, was more about, it was about the sovereignty, wasn't it? That it was never ceded. It
was. You're so right. He saw the Aboriginal passport ceremonies that he initiated, and just to sort of clarify that there were previous Aboriginal passports, but they were really an attempt, say, from the time of Gary Foley in the 10th Embassy in Canberra in the early 70s, to create these alternatives to the Australian passport that would be used when people were travelling. I think Gary Foley actually tried to use it when he went overseas. Uncle Ray's Aboriginal passports were actually an internal matter, and how they worked was to reassert the fact that there are 500 Aboriginal odd nations in this country, that they have never ceded their sovereignty, and that non-Indigenous people, thus, as they move across those various nations, need to carry an Indigenous passport and ask for permission from the appropriate elders to enter country. And he saw that as a sign of exercising Indigenous sovereignty and exercising in the sense that they have not given up land and their rights to that land, regardless of what the government and the settler state says.
Well, that's right. And in fact, just so in case listeners have just tuned in, we're listening to doing an interview about Ray Jckson, who we're honouring his legacy, and he died on the 23rd of April 2015. But really looking at the fact that historically that we had missions from 1788 onwards, we had genocide where Aboriginal children were taken away, but not only that, we had the stolen wages, we also had the Aboriginal Aborigines Protection Board, didn't we, Joseph, where, people had to have a travel permit. And so it's quite important, really, that a passport, an Aboriginal passport is given, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, what's powerful, so symbolically and politically powerful about Uncle Ray's Aboriginal passports is that they've appropriated, if you like, a settler technology like the permits that you're talking about and the dog tags and all the other documentation that controlled and surveilled Indigenous subjects and really regulated their lives in every turn and regulated their freedom of movement, etc. He appropriated that, indigenises it, and uses it in order to assert unceded sovereignty. And so it completely sort of flips it on its head as an act of agency.
Absolutely. And in fact, that's why it was good to mention the passport, because he's a large part of Uncle Ray's work was in regards to building the movement to stop Aboriginal deaths in custody. But that wasn't all. There were lots of other things too.
That's right. Well, look, he was foundational in helping draw up the Aboriginal deaths in custody recommendations from the Royal Commission. He was militant in arguing for that Royal Commission. So he had all of that foundation. And of course, he was co-founder of Don Clark of the Indigenous Social Justice Association. There were so many landmark firsts that he established. But the indication of the largeness of Uncle Ray's heart was that he encompassed what we were saying right at the beginning, and that was the broad spectrum of subjects who were victims or who were targets of racism and some form of institutionalised violence. To give you an example, with the Indigenous passports, they were for non-Indigenous people in order to mark their allegiance to Indigenous nations, Indigenous country, but they were also ways in which, as I said, he exercised hospitality to refugees and asylum seekers who were caught in those dreadful, violent prisons, the offshore and inshore, onshore detention centres. But he also sent the passports to people like Julian Assange via his father, because he felt that Julian Assange had been really betrayed by the state. The state has washed its hands of all responsibility. And he did that. He did it with Mamdouh Habib, who was wrongfully imprisoned for 5 years in Guantanamo. And he actually invited Mamdouh and Saba Habib to the first Indigenous passport ceremony and presented it to him on stage. And it was like quite a moving... This is a man who experienced 5 years of the most horrific torture within those CIA black sites in Guantanamo, completely abandoned by the Australian state.
Absolutely.
And really, a broken man when he came back, and sort of had to begin to put himself together again. And he spoke to me at that ceremony and said that gesture of Uncle Ray's made him feel that there was a sense of belonging and healing for everything he'd experienced.
Yeah. Yes, he wrote a book called My Story, and I remember interviewing him.
Yeah.
Actually, yes.
That's right. That's right. So
this is what I mean.
An indication of how he covered so many different bases. Yeah. And if I can just say, when you made your introduction, your tail end comments to the lovely Carolyn Jackson, his daughter, you marked him as an internationalist, and I think that's one of the hallmarks of his greatness, that he could see the larger picture and see how local and national issues connected with broader international forces and relations of power.
That's exactly right. And I only wish that, I'm not suggesting that without Ray we can't do anything, because we have to keep fighting and we have to continue that legacy. But I only wish there were more people out there like him.
Well, look, I mean, Uncle Ray was irreplaceable. And
absolutely.
There's no way anyone can fill his boots. But as you say, if we're going to try and do justice to Uncle Ray's legacy, we're beholden to continue in our own modest ways the extraordinary social justice work and the path that he carved out for us to follow.
That's exactly right. It's approximately 4:52 and you're with the Doin Time show, and I'm interviewing Joseph Pugpese about Ray Jackson's legacy. So would you say that that Ray was involved a lot with the unions?
He was. I mean, he worked on the waterfront, as you probably know, and he told me, that was like a life lesson for him in terms of seeing the sorts of injustices and inequities that workers have experienced. So he was a militant unionist fighting for workers' rights. And I'll make you laugh. On occasions, when Sivendrini Pereira, with whom we worked on the Deathscapes, when she'd come to Sydney, we'd invite him out for dinner and have a celebratory dinner. He would come working his high-vis vest.
Oh, yeah.
As a mark of his solidarity with workers. So it was something and that's why we also had his hard hat helmet at the launch, because there was a really strong commitment to the workers' movement and workers' rights.
And lastly, because we've only got a couple of minutes left, but I think really just to sum it all up, that justice drove Uncle Ray, and he never compromised under pressure from police, courts and prison authorities. And I think towards the end of his life, the police really gave him a hard time, and didn't they, in regards to the TJ Hickey March?
In particular to the TJ Hickey March.
It's awful.
They were furious that he would not let that go and that he continued to seek justice for
because it wasn't an accident.
Well, exactly. It was a police killing.
Of course it was a police killing. And we need
if that chase had not happened, if that racialised chase had not happened, TJ would still be alive today.
Yeah, it's pretty important. Joseph, we've got about 2 minutes left. Thank you so much for coming onto the program. It's always lovely to have you.
You're welcome, and lovely to be talking about the great late Uncle Ray. And all I can say is we miss him terribly, but he's also an extraordinary inspiration for us to keep doing the work from our own local positions.
Very much so. All right, Joseph, keep up the good work. And if people want to look at the Deathscapes website, jump on www.deathscapes.org.
That would be great. And you could see a whole gallery there, including one that pays homage to leading figures like Uncle Ray and others who have been inspirational to us as social justice activists.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Bye, Marissa. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so we were talking...
Community radio is your antidote to social isolation. Stay connected and listen to 3CR. 855 AM, 3CR digital and streaming and podcasting online at 3cr.org.au. And
we've got about a minute left, and we're going to be going out with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella from the Rumpy Band. Thank you to all our guests, and a cheerio to Peter and Rob, who are a part of this show in spirit, and thanks a lot for their help. All right, well, stay strong in this lockdown and take care of each other, and until every Monday from 4 to 5 for the Doin Time show, stay tuned. Thanks a lot. Bye.
As long as you a true fella, as long as you a real fella.